getting more and more,
Well, here especially, don't you think?
recognized. In this area, yeah, because the Islamic population in
It's
northern
grown.
New Jersey is pretty big. In fact, we had people making shahada, converting every night, sometimes 2 and 3 a night. And it was, I've never seen that before, not quite like that, yeah. It was huge.
And so that was
In
during
every mosque,
Oh,
yeah, yep,
Wow.
yeah. So that was cool, and it was already crowded. It's so crowded. You know, when you get out of a football stadium and everybody tries to get out at the same time? That's what it was like, trying to get in and out. And they had the police on every corner around the mosque with the big
For the whole
lights for the whole month. And they had, because of what's going on in the world, they had a team outside every door of the mosque. And not only our mosque, but the other ICPC mosque in Clifton, which is huge, and the neighbors have been complaining. And all the masajid all over the area, they had police protection, which is unfortunate, but it did make you feel a bit more
I was gonna
secure.
say, I would feel.
Yes, but they did traffic direction too, because to get out, oh my God, it was
Wow.
horrendous.
I wish we could use a little now.
Exactly. Come on, come on.
We got a really nice place here.
Yeah, we haven't had police traffic director in a long time.
Maybe that's
Well,
what we need.
I don't want
Yeah,
to make
start
you
the
feel,
rumor.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to make you feel bad, but it was a great thing to see that there were so many people. But on the other hand, I had to have people save my seat because I'm coming from a little further away, and then there's a lot of ladies that get real testy. I have to sit now. I'm one of the old ladies, and I have to sit down. So they have a little section over to the side for the men in their section and the ladies in our section that have to sit. And you want to get, I was in the front row every night except one where I came too late, and they said, you can't save seats, it's not allowed, it's haram. No, it's not really haram, but anyway.
We'll put a couple more seats in there, huh?
But then, everybody else is, because I can't go down on my knees anymore, I need a seat. But everybody else wants space too, and there's this big tussle. So it's like, you have to remind each other, it's Ramadan, we're supposed to be nice, we're not supposed to get angry, we're supposed to love our, our
Love that
sisters
person
and
that's in your
brothers,
way.
who's yelling at me to, you can't take a seat.
Hi, Barbara.
Good morning.
You're muted. I don't know if you know it, but you're muted. Can't hear you. There you go.
Many buttons to push.
Can you hear us okay?
Perfectly, thank
Oh,
you.
Oh,
nice.
cool, so it works.
Yeah, it works. So I had to do a last-minute adjustment, so I brought my desktop computer out into the sanctuary where we're running the Zoom because of all the, I don't even want to go into all the technology disasters last night.
It
We were
was
spending so much time on it.
I know, it was 6:30 I came over here to read and get ready for the study, and I spent the entire hour just trying to get the Zoom connected. So anyway, I
So
don't,
you've given up on that device?
yeah, I got locked out of my iPad. I mean, locked out. The same code that I've used my birthday, on that iPad, it said, you entered the wrong thing 4 times.
You're
yeah.
out,
Go do
yeah,
something for 2 hours.
right, because then they'll let you back, but it's a safety thing, I understand, but
get
it's
it,
so
but-
frustrating, I know.
And then they go, well, so if,
There should be one other option, don't you think?
yeah, there is.
Shoot your iPad.
Go to this website. Well, I can't
Can't
get
get
on.
on it.
Exactly. With what device do I
I
do
know,
that? Yeah.
so, it was a mess. And then,
Well, I think there should be some kind of finger recognition or face recognition,
yeah, just something that you could get around it. And I suppose there is. It's an older iPad, but,
Yeah, because now I have finger recognition on everything.
yeah, and they
And
always
then now they
ask
have
me
the
to
eyeball
face
thing.
recognition or whatever. And, but this one, this iPad, I inherited it when my father-in-law died, and it still thinks that I'm my father-in-law.
Oh,
So that makes it a little bit tricky too. So when I try to go behind the scenes and verify that it's me, I don't have his email address anymore, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to take it to Apple and ask them if they can just
Can you
wipe it
fix it?
think they can.
Yeah.
and then just start again.
Oh,
I don't know.
oh,
Anyway, here we are now, and this actually works pretty good.
yeah.
Believe it or not, I have been talking to my technician about using that large screen television
The
over there.
TV, yeah,
Use it in that place and set our table up in front
over
of that.
there, yeah.
And in order to do that, all he has to do is put a camera on the top of that television.
Oh,
And
well,
then,
why,
and this is a nice view. I mean,
yeah,
right,
Yeah,
you
we
can
get to see you guys
see
this time.
everybody, and
Maybe you don't see us as well.
so maybe the disaster will turn into an
And we have to
opportunity.
hope, huh?
Yeah,
it'll be a blessing in disguise.
and we're using the new zoom and follow camera in the center up there, so
Cool.
the view for online of this now is
Should be good,
greatly
too.
improved,
Uh-huh.
and I don't have to climb up on a chair
No,
because it's remote control.
Oh,
So,
good, that's right, yeah, you were always,
yeah,
yeah, you just have to be able to get back on Zoom.
yeah. So here we are, the Zoom account's working.
Zoom's working.
I will warn you that one of the things that was a part of the combination of technical disasters was I had bought the deluxe Zoom, which is unlimited time.
Sure.
And like 120 people can be on. But I didn't realize it cost $234.
It's expensive.
Yeah. So when the message came up 3 days ago that I had to renew it, I was like, forget it. I'll just use my personal one. So I'm just warning you, on the personal one, you only get 45 minutes.
All right.
So if it goes off,
You have to start up.
we'll start over again, okay?
Oh, okay.
It gets annoying.
Yeah, hang
I
in
will
there.
go back and rebuy the subscription. It's ridiculous.
Well, Google Meets.
Really? Google Meets?
You might want to look at that.
Really? I don't know anything about it.
Google Meeting, I think it's called.
Yeah, I used it once for a group that I was in, and
You gotta understand, I'm old
I
school.
wasn't the host.
Like, what I
I
get
know.
used to is what I wanna keep.
Exactly. Okay,
It's a lot of money when you know.
It
It's a lot of
is.
money. And, you know, I don't use it for 100 people, ever. We used it for the congregational meeting one time when there was 45 or 50 people.
that's good.
But that's the one time that was the
And, you know,
case.
during COVID, it was necessary.
Oh, during COVID, it
to
was,
have
yep,
that,
it
but
was a lifeline. No.
Mm.
So Barbara, how are you? How's Florida?
It's wonderful, it's 80 degrees right now.
There you go.
I did have to put the AC on yesterday because I have people who clean every other week. And I came home in the afternoon, it was pretty warm, so, but it's been pretty, it hasn't been that humid, which is wonderful, so.
So,
Yep,
You're
2
almost-
more weeks.
You're almost
and
getting
I'll
ready
be
to come
for
back,
the
aren't
rain.
you?
Yep, she said
It's
2
not very
weeks.
bad.
May.
Don't want to rub it in. You're supposed to get more rain today, right?
well, listen, we're right
Yeah.
up there with you right now. Yesterday it was 80 degrees.
It was,
And
yeah.
it was beautiful, and it was a nice breeze. It was like beautiful, so.
The day
you got-
before that, it was
Day
too hot.
before, it was too hot.
Yeah.
So you got nothing over us right now.
Well, we're
Just
gonna get
saying.
rain.
Okay.
But the rain is coming. Hi, Colette.
Hi,
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
It took so long, I had to go through thousands of emails and delete
Oh.
them before I can find you.
To find the link? Yes. Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you're here. Glad we're here together. I'm gonna turn the volume on the computer up a little bit so we can hear you guys better. I think I'm going to. If I do something and it all disappears, I'm really gonna regret this.
Uh-oh.
I think that worked.
All right. Say something, you guys.
Something.
Oh,
Yay,
yeah, that
that
worked.
worked.
that
Even
too
us
loud?
old folks can hear
Is that
that.
too loud? Oh. Anyway, all right, we can hear you, and you said you can hear me, right, or us?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
All right, perfect. So, I no longer am confident where we read to and from. What I'd like to do today is to read Isaiah 65.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay,
Well, there you go.
Okay.
perfect.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
I thought we were doing songs. That's how long I know.
Oh, no, well, we
That was
missed the Tuesday night
what,
song,
Tuesday
so
night, right.
I love that one. I wanted to say a little bit of something before we start again today. So I don't know where I was driving to, I had a long drive in my car, and I was doing scan on my radio, and a Bible preacher came on, and he was doing Isaiah,
Oh,
Oh.
and he's a fundamentalist, you can
Yeah,
tell
but-
by his accent.
It's from the
And
South.
I thought, it's been a long time since I've heard the hermeneutic approach from,
Someone
from
of that
the other side,
background. Yep,
you know.
yep.
and it won't be new to you, but I was amazed again at, okay, so this is supposedly, it's a preacher who preaches the Bible, right? And he's reading through Isaiah, and he's jumping from here to there to here to there. But one of the things I was amazed about was he was dealing with the thing that we struggle with from time to time in here, and that is Israel is suffering because God is punishing them. Okay? And he's really going to town on this. And he's quoting Isaiah, and then also he quotes it through the other prophets, and he is like driving it home. If you disobey God, you're going to be punished. And if you're being punished, if you're suffering, it's because you're disobeying God. And what I picked up on was how when we read this, we'll say, well, here Isaiah is saying this, or the prophet is saying this, or whatever. He never did that. He always said, God said this.
This is the word of God.
Yeah.
It's the word of God. It may be coming out of Isaiah's mouth, but he is reading it and saying, now God is saying to the people,
Oh my gosh.
you have suffered and you are suffering and you wonder why. And he's transposing his supposed voice of God onto the text in the mouth of Isaiah. And that's the huge difference between the way we read the Bible and the way they do. And I realized one of the consequences of it is, are you going to question God?
Right. No one would do that. You're afraid to do that.
And he would say, he'd read something that, like the kind of things that we go, wow, if you don't start obeying, I'm going to kill your children or your neighbor's children or whatever. And then he would read that and he would say, and that's, God is talking to the people. And then he would kind of turn to the radio audience and he would say, now you know as well as I do, that idea is really not popular in the world in which we live. Because the world in which we live does not want to hear what God has to say.
Okay.
And so what we pull out and toss around the table is our interactions with Isaiah. And we talked about this before, that some Bible teachers don't really entertain questions to the teacher. And what I was thinking about is, basically, he was not entertaining questions about God. We are not, in this radio Bible broadcast, we are not going to doubt the plain and simple words of God describing how it is in the world and what God wants from you.
God said it. I read it. There you go.
There, it's
There.
settled.
The problem is he not acknowledging that this message was there, to a specific group of people? And what does, eons of time and different circumstances do? Is it still just word for word exactly? Because if it is, yeah, exactly. Number one, it wasn't in English, and you didn't have all these different translations. And also, our circumstances, we're not fighting the Babylonians.
Right.
So can you really equate? But they do a lot
They
of
do,
that.
and
They
so
say they
that's
don't,
right.
but they're changing what.
So what you're saying is interesting. It's the second part of it. He reads from the Bible as God's word coming up off the pages to those people. Okay, that's one part. This is what God is actually saying to those people. You've done bad, so I'm starving you. okay? So, but he does this, you point out the second thing, which is, he then makes the incredible jump to say, and this is then what God is saying to us.
Right.
This is exactly how God would speak to us.
So do I have to go over and take a sword to the Babylonians now? I mean,
Yeah, maybe you do.
do I wear garments that have mixed fibers in them, or I'm doomed to hell? Or, I mean, it's like you cannot take this stuff word for word. I think scholars have always known it's up to the interpreter who's looking at it. And and to be so inflexible as to say, this is it for all time, don't change. It's like the Supreme Court now. No amendments, we got to go back to 1864. What? What's wrong with you people?
Well, and it is the assumption, part of the way they do their translation isn't the text they're translating, it's what they skip over. In other words, the whole part of this translating thing is their selectivity in terms of which verses they read. So they present as if, I'm reading this to you, but they're reading a part of it, and then the ones that might be harder, like the whole thing about, multiple clothing woven together, you're not going to hear that from them. So they create a translation which is selective. The parts that they think work for them, and this pastor evidently was really in the mood to scold the contemporary society. He was himself really hating on the world and the way it is, and all the liberality.
He's probably got some cause to be. There are some stuff, things going on that is awful.
Absolutely, but when you go down his list,
Yeah.
It wouldn't match ours, would it?
no, it would not. We might be able to join in. In fact, now more than ever, we might be able to join in a kind of discouragement about the trends of the world and the way things are going in the world. But like my father and his church and the ilk they grew up in was sure the world was about to end.
Sure.
And, that was 75 years ago. But the signs that the world was about to end were included in things like the formation of the United Nations. Formation of the United Nations was a major clue that the world was about ready to enter into a unified global agreement with Satan.
Yeah, right.
And that's why they were getting together, and that's who was pulling together. So in that church, division and fighting among people, disrupting unity, was a sign of God. I mean, so you have to understand, I pity my poor child when I grew up, and how I was supposed to sort this out in my brain.
Right.
Like, I'm listening, and my family was celebrating with the outbreak of war and confusion and the breakdown of government, and when everything looked like it wasn't working, you should celebrate.
Right, because it's heralding the
It is
new
heralding
age.
the new age which is coming, and there really isn't anything you need to do to bring it about except come to church 4 nights a week, 4 days a week, sing the songs, celebrating, and be together and wait patiently for God to come.
God forbid you have any questions at Bible study.
Yeah, no.
Excuse me.
So I just,
Forgotten about. I mean, I didn't
God bless.
experience that, so I'm glad, but I had forgotten that, that extreme.
yeah, it's
But that's
opposite
it's
day.
not only Christianity. That happens in all the 3 religions that I'm most familiar with. There are sects that say any of this stuff. I mean, look at the last few weeks with an eclipse and an earthquake. Oh my God, it's the end of it. Yeah, it's the signs. Come on. It could be. Who knows? We don't know. But please,
I think
It's not
we
time
don't
to hate
know
each other.
is such an important thing to remember. For us to think that we understand God's mind and God's plan is just so far out there.
Yeah.
We are, if anything, that earthquake and that eclipse can convinced me, once again, of how very small I am
Exactly.
and how little I do know. And,
Exactly. What part you play in the universe, which is
Exactly.
gigantic, and we don't understand most of it. And so,
and it is God's.
Yeah.
That I feel
right, I
confident
think so
about.
too.
Other than that,
But God, I don't think is saying, okay, now it's time for an earthquake, because these people are really bad, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I start to lose, reading, Christian Century has become a whole different magazine than it used to be. And it's incredible in terms of examining streams of theology, both in the Presbyterian Church and the mainline church. And one of the things that is growing with people like Richard Rohr and some of the more, I don't know how to call them, like,
Progressive?
yeah, the progressive, enlightened,
Enlightened, that's a
you
good
know,
one.
the meditations that Barbara sends to me all the time,
Yep.
the point of view, which really begins to challenge the idea that when we look into our lives, that what you see unfolding is a plan of God. It's a life, it has experiences in it, and there's opportunity for meaning, Laura's been watching this astrologist who has a web page or whatever, a blog, and it's not the really popular guy, the scientist. But anyway, he talks about, he describes the universe.
yeah, astronomist.
Yes.
Astronomer.
Astronomer.
Astronomer. You said astrologer.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, she
Sorry.
watches an
Sorry.
astrologer.
No,
You're
that's
thinking of
that's a slip.
Neil
whatever.
Tyson, Neil
Neil deGrasse
Neil
Tyson.
deGrasse Tyson.
But that is not the one. This guy is younger than him,
Uh-huh,
and Neil deGrasse Tyson can sometimes be very,
he's a showman.
yeah, he's a showman, and he's also almost a little bit
God bless.
anti-religious. Like
Oh,
he's,
yeah, oh, yes,
but
definitely.
this guy has all the charm of Neil deGrasse Tyson. But instead, he has this quote that he often comes up with, and he says, you know, he's describing the wonder of the size and the magnitude and the unfolding, like Neil deGrasse Tyson does. And he says, so then I think about Earth, and he said, here's what I think. What is unique about Earth in this universe? And he says, what is absolutely unique. Now, it's a little bit short-sighted because you don't know, are there other Earths?
Right, exactly.
But what the Earth has is meaning. There is meaning on this planet. And then he expands it and he says, and one form of meaning is love. There is love. This is not just molecules and atoms and stars. Here, in this place where we live, and it gives me chills when he does it, you know, because I'm so ready for something to replace, you know, the Christian, established theologians who, Laura and I were dealing with a friend who was going through a very difficult time, and again, had been confronted by someone who went to them and said, God will not give you more than what you can bear.
Yeah, and
And
that,
I want to go, Laura and I are alike in this, and Laura says, okay, let's take that person over to Palestine
Yeah.
and have them walk
Sit
into
in
one of the
Gaza.
downstairs,
Exactly.
burned out, and where people are starving, and say, oh, I guess God must have a lot of confidence in you, because you, evidently, God thinks you can bear this.
bear this.
And so,
Or those other people deserve it, and you are, you know,
yeah,
they
so-
deserve
right,
what they're
right.
getting, and you are blessed
Right.
because of whatever.
So all these thoughts are still part of the shell of my world growing up, the theology of my Christianity. I feel like the shell is cracking on it, you know, and it's falling away, and I'm desperate to sort of have the language to say what moves in its place. But that's why this
Well,
astronomer is,
This is like moving towards hatred, a big time, you know, a lot of this stuff.
yeah,
Because if God so dislikes you because you've been bad, then how do you treat the other people around you? If you think God, who should be on your side, is not, then anytime somebody does something to you, even if it's tiny, then you're going to
Well, and-
strike out like God. I mean,
What does that do for parental?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it follows right along, right? This is also what I grew up with. There was a
this hurts me more than it hurts you.
Goddard ran for a while. You talk about crowds coming, and I always go, okay. But it was a phenomenon called Basic Youth Conflicts.
Okay.
And they did a booklet, and the whole idea was they were gonna train Christian families how to be Christian.
Oh, okay.
And this Bill Goddard, he was like the superstar at the head of it. And I'll never forget this image that he said, here is the biblical family. The biblical family starts with a picture of a hammer. So he has this graphic, and the hammer is at the top, and the hammer is the father.
Okay.
And under the hammer is a chisel.
Okay.
So the hammer is about ready to hit the chisel, and the chisel is the mother.
How many mothers?
Yeah.
You want a biblical marriage? You go
No,
ahead.
but he's talking
Go on.
about, this is it. This is God's plan for the family. So the
Okay.
chisel is the mother, the father hits the chisel, and the chisel then hits the ugly piece of coal. And what is being manufactured is a diamond.
Oh,
And
no.
so- Yeah. So he talks a lot about how kids remain unpolished, they're terrible, they're rebellious and everything, because the father hasn't applied
The pressure.
blow of the hammer from the top, and the mother has not made herself available to be the means of delivery. I mean, and
What year was this?
1864?
it was years and years.
What decade was this?
What-
Well, I don't know, 1970? Basic,
Oh, but that's so much anti.
What century was it? Well, because things were happening in society that were
It
changing.
was the hippie generation.
Exactly.
was.
It was
Things
the-
were being
it was,
turned
like,
upside
you know,
down.
There's a bunch of teenagers that look like a piece of coal, because they got long hair, and, I mean,
And the mothers were being mouthy. I mean, know your place, come on.
and one of the locations where they carried out these things was the Word of Life camp up in Scroon Lake, New York. Massive fundamentalist Bible
Really?
camp. And they would bring in crowds of people that would come to Basic Youth Conflicts. And you'd get a folder, you know, a 3-ring binder that had a solution to every problem that would come up in your family. And it started with the failure of men to be men.
And women to be women, I'm sure.
And women to be women in relating to the men, doing what the man says.
And there was stuff in the Bible that would support that.
Oh, yeah, they could,
You can
again, the
point to
same
it.
thing. This is what God said.
Here, what
Right.
wrong with this?
I know. And then, of course, in seminary, it's one thing to say, well, that's there, and then what about now? But in seminary, what really blew my mind was, I went back, and when you look hard, it doesn't say that there either. It doesn't. It's not there. So they're bringing these ideas from now, putting them onto there, and then mining what they think is there, and that's how they get people to comply.
And that's always been that way. It's who's ever got the popular idea of the moment is the one who, sets the tone for what, the next century or two? That's scary, but
But, you know, I was, in the 70s, I was teaching, I was raising kids, and I didn't know about this guy.
Right.
So it wasn't the most popular.
No, but you were in the,
in
you were in the wrong circle.
fundamentalists, yeah, you were in the big
What
steeple,
church were you going
the
to?
white glove,
Okay, there you go, right there.
white
That's it.
glove, tall
No
steeple
wonder you
church.
didn't know anything about it.
High church, come on, lady. You're almost Catholic.
Episcopal church. I'm talking
It was
about,
low Episcopal, but yeah.
I'm talking about the largest denomination in the United States. Baptist.
Baptism, yeah, baptism,
They-
Baptist.
and all the hanger-oners
Yeah.
that followed in the wake of this Baptist culture, and they embraced it entirely. Just
And they haven't completely abandoned it because they split to the Southern Baptist and the rest, right? So there's
Well, now
still,
There's a bunch of Wests, a whole bunch of,
yeah, a lot of different,
yeah, not just American and Southern, there's a whole bunch of other,
Ah.
something called garbage Baptist.
really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
So it
The
just,
initial.
I
Oh,
don't know, it just sent me back on a journey. You know,
Yeah.
I hear this guy preaching, and I know in my own family, my brother is Churches don't care anymore whether you have credentials. They don't check the backgrounds on pastors anymore because pulpits are empty.
Oh.
And they need somebody to preach this Sunday.
So if you went to Bible school for 5 weeks, you're in?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Or your dad was a preacher.
And
The
I
legacy.
knew my nephew, I knew him, and so my grandfather's Presbyterian church needs a pastor. And so I don't know, she's my cousin to my other side of the family. She's on the search committee at the church, and she calls me up and she says, hey, your nephew is looking for a job. And I said, I don't even want you to ask me. I don't want you to ask me. This guy is a disaster. And so she took, all that information in. 3 weeks later, they hired him as a pulpit supply.
No.
Yes, they
As
did.
a public supply.
Yes.
Well, they were
Still,
warned.
not enough.
They were warned.
They were warned.
Yeah.
And they tried desperately to get the presbytery to set aside the objections to him. And in the end, they called duly ordained Presbyterian woman to be in the pulpit. And when we went there for my father's funeral,
This is-
yeah, these two guys came up to me and they said, Pat, we got stuck with her. We wanted your nephew.
Well, she's a woman. What do you want?
I looked at them and said,
You were better off with
I
her.
don't know my nephew at all.
Aw,
But I have to talk carefully.
yes, because it's your family and you don't want to, you don't know and you don't want to interfere with another church's search
Right now, I
committee.
realize I'm,
You're being
Yep.
blasted out.
out there.
Well, now your nephew knows, but,
I don't even watch this.
but there was a time you could not get past Presbytery's guidelines.
It was strict.
You had, you had to
Running
be
out of time,
ordained.
it says.
Running
You
out
better
of
just
time.
let-
Hang in and,
So hang on, I'm gonna have to cut it off, and then you'll have to sign back in again. I'm sorry, Paulette, but you have to sign in, right?
Okay, so you want to get lost and then start all over?
Well, it says the meeting will end in 10 minutes,
Okay, but you're gonna end it now.
or I could reactivate Pro with a 15% discount.
yeah, and then maybe not get it at
Wow,
all.
see?
I don't know, maybe I'm gonna hit reactivate Pro, I can't do this.
Okay.
I need,
Go for it.
yeah, wait.
At 15%, hey, I'll give you 6.
Maybe they're gonna give you your whole time before they switch over.
Just keep saying no and then eventually they'll give it to you for free.
Yeah.
Oh, sure,
That's what-
Barbara. Come on, this is America.
What?
Nothing's for free.
Washington Post gives me a deal every day.
That's what, what's
Yeah.
the radio station that they put in your car? It's free.
Oh, serious.
Serious, they do that.
Serious.
You get 3 months for
Right.
You
free,
get 6 months for free, and then when they go to cancel, you just say, I don't really want to renew. They
and then
go,
you get a
"Okay, give me 6
barrage.
months."
Yeah, you get a barrage of mail, email.
Someday they catch you.
They do. So I just reactivated Pro, which means they must have my credit
Okay,
card.
you're still there.
Yeah. They
They
must
still have your
just
credit.
charged my credit card.
Don't worry, you'll get a charge.
Anyway, I think I'm finished with my rant. I don't know.
I don't blame you.
Like you had a few weeks that you couldn't rant.
That's right. It built up for a while. And it comes back to me in strong ways because, of course, every week I preach, and God is my witness. I want to preach what I believe is authentic Christianity. I want to proclaim Christianity. But, you come to a high holy day like Easter, and the variety of ways in which the resurrection has been both understood and taught, not just with a liberal pastor, but among all the denominations and traditions of the Christian church. It always means 100 things to 100 different communities.
And you could offense so easily.
Right. So,
And what people bring to it, if they're only coming to church once or twice in a year, their expectations are different than folks who come all the time.
right.
So you got that element too.
And I have this voice in me when I'm, working during the week, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's getting louder because, Easter Sunday, right? We say, He is risen. He is risen indeed. He is risen. And then we sing the song, Are Christ the Lord is risen today. Now, don't tell anybody this. I know.
Excuse me.
You're telling them already.
In my head is this question: what difference does it make? What difference does it make? Really, what difference does yes or no to Jesus being dead and coming back to life make? Now, the one answer that I hold on to is one that I cling to, and that is, it gives me some reassurance that I'm going to see my mom and dad.
Oh, wow.
It gives me some, a reassurance about that. I can think, and that has been a teaching strain about the resurrection. It has. And in the New Testament community, that reality gave the disciples courage to not worry about dying.
Exactly.
And they became courageous in their proclamation
To go
against the Roman government. They were outrageous in their inclusivity of people who weren't supposed to belong. And so, okay, death is no longer our big enemy.
Right.
So now we can go live out.
The way
But
God intended?
That only-
I don't know what.
it only lasts for a little while.
But does it have to be, see, I don't buy into right now. I don't know. I guess it's a mystery. I don't live thinking that there's a heaven. I live with the idea that what kind of legacy am I leaving? And that's what Jesus to me was the role model. And even though he died, he still lives through each person who tries to follow the way he lived.
His way, the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
and
exactly.
I can embrace that 100%. I can stay very
Yeah.
excited.
I do that also. Yes.
So, and let me tie that back to my comment about my mom and dad, because I think it's the same, in a way, it's the same with my mom and dad. Like, my mom and dad are alive in me. They are.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
they're resurrected
Yeah.
in me in the way that I live my life, and I feel good about that. You know, so I don't. It's not like I built my whole life today on the idea of, wow, I can't wait till my life is over,
And then I'll have-
To
that.
see all those dead people.
See all
I
the-
see dead people.
Right. That's right.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's a little irreverent, folks.
So many, I'm in a couple of grief groups, and so many of the people are, they get such solace out of knowing that they're going to see their loved one, their child usually, or their husband, again. And it doesn't work for me. It just does not work for me. I'm like, maybe that'll happen, but God is too big for me to understand how that could possibly work. And I don't get it. And
Relax, whatever happens.
And I'm here today. And
Exactly.
This is,
Do this
and
now.
I can't quite, and I do see them in me. Sometimes I'll do something or say something especially, and I'll think, oh my goodness.
Yeah, me too.
I love it.
It's happening with such frequency now, it's freaking me out.
The older
Like,
you get.
am I even myself anymore?
Well, were we ever?
Were we ever? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, right.
So, no, but I think for some people that just gives such great solace and such,
Yeah.
comfort that you don't want to strip them of that.
No.
And you shouldn't.
No.
And I think, that's fine. You don't have to convince someone else.
No, but I
Yeah.
think when it comes to Easter, that becomes
That
a little
Easter
tricky.
message.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. When you said, what does it mean that Jesus died?
What difference does it make?
What difference does it make? In Islam, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the community was bereft. They were, oh, what are we going to do now? And one of the followers, Abu Bakr, said, if you were worshiping Muhammad, then for you, I feel sorry. But if you were listening to what Muhammad was saying and you're worshiping God, nothing has changed for us. You follow the message, not the person. And I think it's the same pretty much with Jesus. And, you know, the stories of Jesus coming back and what, those are wonderful stories. I love them, I cherish them. But do I need to have science say, oh, it happened that way, it happened? I don't need that, because the message of Jesus, what Barbara and Colette were saying, the message is what lives on.
Right.
And the same with our relatives. Part of them live on in us. And when we mention them, they're alive again. That's the resurrection for me.
Well, and you know, by the way, this is why we don't have crowds here. This is why there are no crowds.
Have crowds at our church
Yeah,
either.
we're handling some things that people don't want to hear.
Oh.
But listen, I for years have preached, at my Easter sermon is, look at the meaning of the word resurrection. Resurrection in the Greek does not mean brought back to life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It actually means we saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him again.
Yeah.
And I get behind that to the comments that you just made, like, I've seen my dad this morning. Like, I saw him again. I live in a life in belief of the resurrection. Mm-hmm. And the writers in the New Testament are very careful because they call them resurrection appearances.
Yeah.
Appearances. Now, there is, this year, the cycle brought us to, you know, he ate fish.
Right.
And
Yeah.
But he still walked through the walls when he was done. You know, they never argued. When Lazarus was raised from the dead, he went home with his sisters, put on his pants, and hung out with them until he died another death.
Right.
That is not what the scripture says about the experience of Jesus.
Right.
Wait a minute. We lost.
No. We miss you. Okay.
There it is, $159.
Okay, if you
Well,
want.
that's a lot better than 200 and something.
Yeah, but still,
So it should be working.
because you're right in the middle of the message, and then you get the bill before it's like they know you're going to quickly make a decision that's going to mean money for them, and
I know. I try so hard not to get caught up in that stuff.
oh my God, and these
especially,
snap
you know, that's
decisions.
not that
Yeah, right. Yeah,
different, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I need to do that.
Wait, look.
those decisions are tough. Yeah.
Workplace Pro, $1,439.
What?
Wow.
Get
No, I
out
like
of
that.
town.
159 sounds.
Yeah, that's $159 a month.
Oh no.
please, no.
See, they wanted you to hit that button thinking it was 150.
There has to be a cheaper one. You know what?
There's gotta be.
You can just start it over.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to do.
Yeah,
I'm gonna close this out, see if we can pick them up again.
You know,
might be Google Meet next month,
or Skype.
next week. Skype, right? Skype. Oh,
I've been using Skype lately.
we used to use Skype when the
We
kids were
Yeah,
babies. Yeah, I mean, not my kids, but my grandchildren. It was, years ago, it was technically hard,
It was, but it's not so
but
much anymore.
yeah, so that might be an alternative. Isn't it free still? Yeah, there you go.
Well, that part is, making phone calls is
Oh,
not.
okay.
It's
Yeah, but
still-
for most people in the United States, it's,
Well, that's not.
you're calling overseas, yeah.
They may have some package that's, you know, I don't know, that more people, whatever, but.
And fancy this and that.
Look at that at another time, like under the pressure of this, I can't, here
No,
Barbara's
no, no.
signing back in.
Well, I didn't mean to indicate that at all.
See, well, she's there.
You're getting it,
So,
Yeah, it's coming back on, we've got another 45 minutes.
which should be enough, huh?
Yeah.
I think
But then- then our
we
meeting-
haven't even started Isaiah, though.
And you have to do it again later.
For the meeting,
I know, that's right, because we got a meeting coming
and
up.
credit card
Oh.
didn't work.
Uh-oh. Oh,
Well, I say, I looked, it popped up another option to try to re-enroll, it was $139 a month.
yeah, they want you to make a rash decision,
Yeah,
don't
I
do
gotta
it.
go look at that.
Take some time.
I know they have options, not that much.
Yeah, they did.
Not the unlimited.
Well, and this one, I don't know, this is the one that I had the bigger contract on. The personal one is still the other one, it's on my Rev Louis. So I could just go back to that one and then circulate a new invitation.
Oh, you could do that.
Anyway, let's read, let's read what Isaiah has to say.
Oh,
I'm sorry we lost Colette.
oh. Well, she usually leaves at 11 anyway, doesn't she? Yeah.
She does. Maybe
she
she'll try
hasn't
still to
missed.
come back on.
Yeah, she usually leaves around this time though.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
what
we're
did we
reading
say?
64, right? Or 65?
65, I think is what you said.
Yes, we read 64.
65. were you up to?
65 is the one we're on today.
Okay.
All right, so who's going to read?
I'll let someone else read since I'll be talking at the meeting.
Okay,
And I'm coughing.
I guess it's me.
it's Debbie. All right, here we go.
Okay. I was ready to be sought out by those who did not ask, to be found by those who did not seek me. I said, here I am, to a nation that did not call on my name. I held out my hands all day long to a rebellious people who walk in a way that is not good, following their own devices, a people who provoke me to my face continually, sacrificing in gardens and offering incense on bricks, who sit inside tombs and spend the night in secret places, who eat the flesh of pigs with broth of abominable things in their vessels, who say, keep to yourself, do not come near me, for I am too holy for you. These are a smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all day long. See, it is written before me, I will not keep silent, but I will repay. I will indeed repay into their laps their iniquities and their ancestors' iniquities together, says the Lord. Because they offered incense on the mountains and reviled me on the hills, I will measure into their laps full payment for their actions. Thus says the Lord, as the wine is found in the cluster, and they say, do not destroy it, for there is a blessing in it, so I will do for my servants' sake, and not destroy them all. I will bring forth descendants from Jacob, and from Judah inheritors of my mountains. My chosen shall inherit it, and my servants shall settle there. Sharon shall become a pasture for flocks, and the valley of Achor a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. But you who forsake the Lord, who forget my holy mountain, who set a table for fortune, and fill cups of mixed wine for destiny, I will destine you to the sword, and all of you shall bow down to the slaughter, because when I called you, you did not answer. When I spoke, you did not listen. But you did what was evil in my sight, and chose what I did not delight in. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, my servants shall eat, but you shall be hungry. My servants shall drink, but you shall be thirsty. And my servants shall rejoice, but you shall be put to shame. My servants shall sing with gladness of heart, but you shall cry out in pain of heart, and shall wail in anguish of spirit. You shall leave your name to my chosen to use as a curse, and the Lord God will put you to death. But to his servants he will give a different name. Then whoever invokes a blessing in the land shall bless by the God of faithfulness, and whoever takes an oath in the land shall swear by the God of faithfulness, because the former troubles are forgotten and are hidden from my sight. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Jerusalem as a joy and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard in it, or the cry of distress. No more shall there be in it an infant who lives but a few days, or an old person who does not live out a lifetime. For one who dies at 100 years will be considered a youth, and one who falls short of 100 will be considered accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and eat their fruit. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For like the days of a tree shall be the days of my people be, and my chosen shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain or bear children for calamity, for they shall be offspring blessed by the Lord, and their descendants as well. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like the ox, but the serpent, its food shall be dust. They shall not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, says the Lord. Yowza. It's kind of easy to read hate, isn't it? It's always dramatic. Ay, ay, ay.
So when I listen to this whole passage, so I feel like I have two ways of hearing it. One is, I think about this kind of horrible image of God destroying the people God doesn't appear to like. And, people sacrificing in the garden, that's other religions. This is a whole big diatribe against other religions. And that the true religion, which is the religion of God, okay. But, yeah, but I also have to say, in this life, I was trying to think of an example, and I'm going to pick a really weak one because I just am not, and maybe it'll just come across that I'm anti-corporations, but I was aware that it's not Home Depot. What's the buyer's club?
Lowe's? Oh, Costco?
Costco. The owner of Costco has built a very successful business. It's enormously profitable. People who work in Costco are some of the highest paid employees in the United States. They are paid to go to college. They provides health care for all employees. It is one of the finest examples of big corporation employment that exists. The man who is the CEO has a salary which is only 3 times higher than his highest paid employee. And so if I put that corporate model into this, and I remember that the original longing of God was that the success of this new creation, meaning I'm going to take you out of the hands of Pharaoh, out of the place of abusive work and slavery, and I'm going to establish you in a land that is productive, and you will use everything you reap in that land for the blessing of the families of the earth. You will live out. This is my demand. This is my command. And so I start to listen to this and say, what if this I see in the world, and I'm no longer shocked at the idea that that people should be punished. Abusive corporate culture which takes advantage of people. I mean, the little bit that I know about the Immokalee workers and their original condition when Barbara introduced it to us, so here we go. I believe God is enraged at the people who are abusing the workers who are picking the fruit and the vegetables that just comes up out of the ground and abusing the people and then taking the profits and going off and building kingdoms and dominions of hedonistic pleasures, buying an island, doing all the things that you can do in this world. But it's like sacrificing in the garden. It's a religion. There is a religion that is strong and vibrant in the world. And I can't help it when I take it out of that context of, they were going to beat up on the people that didn't pray the right way or didn't But when I put it in context of what it seems like is here, and that is that God, this is a promise that God is going, the commentators say, this is a promise that God is going to start all over again. God is going to start all over
New
again.
Jerusalem, right?
Right, and in the New Jerusalem, the idea of the New Jerusalem is it's going to be a New Jerusalem. It's not going to be the old, because of what happened. Jerusalem built walls, they became powerful, they became abusive, they began, and this is the language, they began to worship other gods, the gods of money and power. They became greedy. They lost the mission of God in the world. So here, wow, Isaiah is saying, I get it. There's a suffering that's going on in the world, and I'm not happy about it. Because the plenty and the bounty of life was supposed to produce people who would receive the bounty as a blessing and then be a blessing.
Right.
But
But
that doesn't.
can we put that on God? We can't. It's human beings that are being the oppressors.
Yeah.
It's not God that's,
No, it's not God.
Right.
In fact, it said something about like smoke in the nostrils, you know.
Yeah.
God
God,
finds it
like,
absolutely
it's
despicable.
repugnant.
Abhorrent.
It is repugnant to God
it's
that
abhorrent,
this behavior is going on.
right? So Donald Trump shouldn't be selling $60 Bibles?
Oh, God, that
Oh, really?
makes me want to vomit. I mean, really.
It's the ultimate
That's
sacrilege. It is exactly that. It was like, are you kidding me? Could you go any lower, Mr.
Yes,
Man?
you can go, no, you can go lower. You could buy one.
Yes, exactly. You could spend your money. Well, how about all the people that bought into his truth? And now they're saying, yeah, and some of them are saying we were flim-flammed. Well, you got to con me. But there are some that they were quoting that said, we just want to hang on. We know God will make this right.
Yes?
And they're still, thinking of it. It's like, please, when you think about people turning their backs on religion or organized religion, this is some of the reasoning for it. How do people see a person like that using religion to be selfish and be a con person and take advantage of people who are putting their trust, they think, in what God is calling them to do, and then they get slapped in the face. It's like Pharaoh. It's like the villains of the Bible and the villain also of the Quran. It's always Pharaoh. And who are the new pharaohs? Donald Trump. The oppressors, the people who, I don't know. I'm probably ranting on about that because it's just in the news now, but it's like when I saw him with the Bible saying, buy my Bible,
And it has an American flag on
Yeah.
the cover.
Yeah.
and the Constitution, and
And like in the Bible, and that's a trend that's been growing, the marriage of
church and
the
state.
flag and the Bible and America, and this is the New Jerusalem.
But
right?
it's not
This is
even
the New
America, it's Donald Trump's America,
Yes.
which isn't the America of the Constitution even. It's Donald Trump's idea. Yeah, exactly. He wants to get rid of the Constitution. What's he going to do? Put out a new version of his Bible if he gets reelected when he takes away the Constitution? I mean,
I went to Grove City College for 3 of my 4 years of undergraduate, and didn't really know much about it, but it's a free market economy college. It's famous for its economics. It's produced some of the thinking that's a part of this. And I think back to those days, and it rings true for today. They showed a film in the economics class called Mr. Deeds Goes to Washington.
yeah.
And the whole premise of that movie was that people who are part of the right economic and political movement need to go to Washington and create so much chaos that Washington can do nothing. And
When I watched Mr. Deeds, that wasn't the message I got.
well, what they're arguing, what they're saying is, and they taught this in the Constitution classes, is that the founders of the Constitution created the 3 branches of government to confound and tie the hands of government so that it could do absolutely nothing. That the government needed to be strapped down, tied down, and kept out of interfering in American life.
Okay, so you want a dictator, because it's easy. He says it, you do it.
Right, well, that wasn't their belief. They believed,
But that is what they're
that's what
aiming
will
at.
result
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
But the idea was that government, and Ronald Reagan said this,
Yes.
government is the
The problem.
It is the problem.
But we
Now,
know Ronald Reagan was full of bullshit,
Why
so,
not? I know.
you know, why should we listen to that? Anytime you get people being forced to come together and talk about things is way better, even if it takes forever. You know, you're in the church, the session meets, you think, Jesus, we could have,
Yeah,
sorry,
that's all right.
we could have this thing done tomorrow if they just see the light.
Right.
But the people have to come together and talk about it. It's the only way. It's,
So there's the contrast then of me flashing back to that part of my education. And then on NPR yesterday, or 2 days ago, they had a woman who's just releasing a book today. It's called Romancing, or A Romance of the 1960s. She
Doris
was-
Kearns Goodwin.
What?
It's Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Oh, Doris
Yes, it is.
Richard
Doris Kearns
Goodwin was
Goodwin,
her
right.
The
husband,
husband.
was the speechwriter
Right, and so,
Kennedy
LBJ.
and Nixon.
right.
and she worked with
And
LBJ.
Johnson.
I'll tell you in a minute,
Yeah.
because it's on my book list.
Right.
So,
And she's one of my heroines.
oh, man,
Right.
I tell you, I listened to her, I stopped
An
the car.
unfinished love story.
An
Yeah,
unfinished
that's
love
it.
story.
And I stopped
I
the
heard
car,
that
and I
interview.
listened to her,
Yeah,
as I was weeping at one point.
Right.
Because what she described was, there was this moment in time where
Right.
all of a sudden, government was able to enact the civil rights movement,
There you go.
the
Right.
voting rights movement. She went down the whole list of things that
Right.
were accomplished in this
And-
window, and
Yep.
how it shaped so much hope in America. And I was
Right.
like, right, I forgot about that. I forgot about
All the
and-
things LBJ did.
and there was struggle for sure.
Okay.
And there was heartache, and there were winners and losers, but along the way, women's rights, and, you know, and.
Mm-hmm. The poor were
right,
taken
She even
care
talked
Voting
about
rights and civil rights and
and
the
rights
war in
for-
Vietnam and et
rights for
cetera, et
gay and
cetera.
lesbian people.
Yeah,
I forgot
those
that
were
that
the
movement
days.
found its, what a great time it was. And the record of it is there in the speeches and the celebrations of it. And then, of course, as
The war got in the way, and
well, the war
LBJ,
became, and
could not-
LBJ fell out of favor, and, you know, he was trying his best, I guess you could say, but her point eventually was that this is the way life goes. So that you have this
Ebbs and
explosion
flows.
of justice and the gasp of air for freedom out from under the tyranny of what America had become,
yeah.
and then the backlash comes.
The back, and it always does. I mean, look, in Obama's time in office, and a lot of Democrats were in office as well, we got LBGT, what, Q, I
Yes.
never,
Yeah.
rights
Full rights to
and,
be married,
you know, lots of healthcare.
healthcare, yeah.
Just
like-
things got done, and now that backlash is always there. Ever since LBJ, they've been trying to claw back all the stuff that they did during that. In fact, they go back to FDR.
Right, they
Let's
do,
go
the Great
back to
Society, like-
Medicare
Right.
and, you know, Social Security.
The whole idea that somehow the
Well, not
government.
Medicare, that
the
was
government should be
LBJ.
there to help and create the Great Society. That whole idea
right.
is now being dashed against the rocks with the idea that that is communism and that's socialism and that is
Exactly.
not free market capitalism.
That's not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says the government is there for the general welfare of the people. That doesn't mean only building bombs and bombing, you know, your perceived enemies. It means taking care of people when they're hungry and homeless and need a hand up and need to be educated and need to be taken care of when they're sick. That's the general welfare. And, you know, there's these elements that want to say, oh, but that's messy. We can't do that. It takes way too much conversation
And money.
yeah,
And money, and that's the thing,
We
that's.
want the money for other things.
And they don't even-
themselves.
and the
pretty
people-
much.
The people at the top have so much money now, they don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I.
Listen to Bernie Sanders. He says it all the time. They
And
don't
that's why
need
I
more.
can get behind what seems like this confession, okay? Get to the point where I'm ready for violence. I'm ready to say, we cannot wait for this to just happen. These people must be made to give up this endless self-centered pursuit for one more, jolly ride into space on the money that's been generated. And I realized, boy, I'm going to get arrested when the new government comes for being a communist. I'm like,
Well, we're the new silent majority.
well, I don't want to be silent.
Well, I think that's what's happened is, people were willing to speak out a lot more. I think people have given up, and I think that it's frustrating, but, and I don't know how the younger generation can be, I think the younger generation came out with Black Lives Matter and with the gun control, but I think, they didn't see progress for the most part. I'm not saying all, but it's unfortunate that, I don't see it happening. I see protest, but I don't see action. I don't know how to explain it. As we did in the 60s.
One of my ideas is that one of the reasons that the generation of my children is not out demonstrating is because they're strapped with debt.
That's another
are-
thing.
they
Debt
are
forgiveness.
strapped
Oh my God,
debt.
Biden, how can you forgive people their debts?
And the taxes, so,
Why, I don't want my taxes to pay for some other person's kid.
and so the endorsement of this selfishness comes around when I filed my taxes. It was much easier to file my taxes because Donald Trump put in the larger, standard deduction. Like, I went through all of my deductions and it still didn't meet the $28,000 standard deduction that Donald Trump had passed through. And people go, hey, that wasn't so bad at all. And so we're bought off, on the one hand, and there are a lot of people who still think that with all the chaos of these disruptors, that part of what they're going to do is they're going to disrupt the government enough to give us some of our money back, to stop taking all of our money.
But if
It's
they
a
would
hope.
open their eyes, they would see that you got a little pittance, whereas the big corporations got unbelievable
They
amounts
got
of
a
money.
free pass.
And all the billionaires who sit down and say, we're going to back people like Donald Trump when he says, and they have, him on hot mics and when he doesn't know he's being listened to, when he's talking to all his billionaire friends and saying, don't worry, we got this thing, you guys are going to pay way less in taxes. And he did come through with that.
He did.
That's the one thing that he got accomplished in his term in office that, what's your big accomplishment? Giving way more tax breaks to the very wealthy than you did for the little guy. And
the little guy's still supporting him.
exactly,
I know, they're writing checks out there. Like,
because they think even if I get a little bit, it's better than nothing. But it is nothing, because when you talk about what stuff they're going to be taken away from you, how about the people who say, government, hands off my Medicare. Government, hands off my Social Security. Where do you think that's coming from? Duh? I mean, really? They don't understand how government works, I guess. Maybe we need civics in schools again.
well, we do
Maybe.
need that.
But thinking back to the 60s and into the 70s when all this race stuff was happening, really, it wasn't just the politicians.
No, it was not.
It was, there's Martin Luther King, for example.
Right.
Where are those people today?
They're around.
Where are they? They're not somehow as powerful. as he
Yeah, but,
was.
Well, the
they're there.
pastor,
They don't have
the pastor that's organizing the Poor People's
Exactly.
campaign throughout the South.
Barber.
What?
Barber.
Yes, Barber. And the whole Moral Mondays movement, which is tweaking the consciousness of people, mostly among the poor, but that was the idea of Martin Luther King Jr. He said, let's go to the poor, get the poor organized, and push up from the bottom.
Right.
And I think William Barber has that same hope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they're in government
movements
here
are
and there.
happening. They are,
I
but-
mean, Obama was a community organizer. He came out of that tradition. There are people in government now who are frequently called by the right communists, agitators, all kinds of names. They're not. They're just following the Constitution, folks,
Yeah,
but
and they tend to organize unions, and they tend to
Exactly.
they do all the things that the communists, the people who were accused of being communist sympathizers, that what they were really doing was organizing labor.
Mm-hmm.
They were organizing people to say, you stand alone, you'll never stand against this, you'll never get the change, but if we stand together,
we
you
can
know,
do this.
I think these movements are going on,
They are, but
but boy, the pushback is amazing. And it's not just who's going to be president, it's who's rising in the ranks. You know, when you see the House of Representatives that we have and their own commitment to chaos and
Yeah.
disorder and failing to make anything happen that will improve our lives.
Anything positive, really.
Anything.
they're gonna try and get, I forget the guy's name, it's such a pedestrian name, who's the speaker now?
Johnson.
It is. That's why it's hard to remember. He wants to pass some legislation to get some of that aid money to where it needs to be. And Marjorie Taylor, what's her face? I forget. Green. You know, they're threatening to get rid of him, and that's part of that. Let's have utter chaos.
Chaos, just
Because
have
it works
chaos.
better for Donald Trump. And I think it's really just for Donald Trump. There's something about that guy as a cult leader, and it is a cult, that, you know, it tempts you to be one of these folks that say, yeah, the end of times is coming because the Antichrist is here.
Yeah.
Come on, throw up your hands, we can't do anything.
So I just go back and say, you know what, when I put those people and that person in view, I don't have any trouble with what God's gonna do to them. Like, I don't know, I know it's not right, but, you know, they're rebellious people who walk in a way that is not good, following their own devices, are people who provoke me to my face continuously, sacrificing in gardens and offering incense on bricks, who sit inside tombs and spend the night in secret places, who eat swine's flesh, broth, and abominable things in their vessels, who keep saying, keep to yourself and do not come near me, for I'm too holy. I mean,
In this context, yes, I can see, if you take it, the thought that Isaiah is saying, God is displeased.
yeah,
God is not actually going to do that, even though you know, it sounds like
Right,
it. It's we doing it to
right,
ourselves.
it's a mechanism. This is gonna be
Exactly.
the result of what you do.
So-
If you live like this, the world
God's
will.
warning you.
Yeah, yes.
You're going down the wrong path, and you're going to put yourselves in hell, right here on earth.
But another thing that you need to look at, I've been reading Lynn Truist's book, The Soul of Money, and she visited with Mother Teresa. And this woman, Lynn Truist, is in charge of some hunger, I think it's called the Hunger Project. She was the fundraiser for it. And she was having a conversation, and some very wealthy couple came in and said they had to talk to her, to Mother Teresa. The woman, this Lynn Truist, was really upset, and she was thinking, you know, why are these people, why do they think they have the right to do this and whatever? And I guess Mother Teresa, when they left, Mother Teresa realized the woman was out of sorts, and she said that you have to realize that they are needy as well.
Yeah,
And I know that's something Henry Nouwen wrote about a lot too, that we cannot dismiss those who we think, you know, have it all and are so uncaring, but they have their needs as well. And I guess we have to figure out a way to reach them or
Yeah.
to be compassionate about them.
people follow in
which is
cults.
not easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Well, pray for
it's
your
easy,
enemies.
but
And
it's
people,
food for
people,
thought.
people join and follow cults because they're hurting. They
Yeah.
do. I mean, that's, and the cult designers know that, and they go in and they meet the need. You know, during the 60s as well, there were a lot of American teenagers that
Right.
were captured and taken off. And one of the things that was the open door, I had a friend in college whose sister was, quote, kidnapped, but she was very lonely after a breakup, and she was in an art museum. And in the art museum is where the people from this cult were walking around looking for people who were hurting.
Yeah, lonely people.
And they did this thing called love bombing, you
Right.
know, and like people who are involved in movements like this, even the people that I can say, yeah, they're cults and they're crazy or what's wrong with them,
Right.
looking into their lives, you realize there's a hurt. There's a hurt in there.
Well, Donald Trump keeps telling the people who listen to him, I'm doing this for you.
Yeah, he's gonna take care of
It's
it.
not for himself. Of course, we know it's for him, but he's doing it for you. And people do buy into
Yeah.
that.
Barbara, I got a message and I'm running out of time again.
Do we have another 10 minutes? Because
So are we going to stop and go
Yeah.
at 11:30?
Yeah, how about
And have
yeah, we'll stop.
a fast, started when Janet gets there.
All right.
Pat is not coming.
Okay, I'll start.
Pat has
back
a
up then.
doctor's appointment, so we'll try to be very efficient with
Okay.
our time. So you don't have to keep pushing the buttons.
All right, okay, so we'll,
Thank you
thank
all.
you for a good discussion, and,
Yeah.
I'll
we'll
see
see
you in a
you.
little while,
Okay.
Lou. Debbie, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Take care.
Oh, that's a touch screen?
it is a touchscreen, it's not working. Nothing is working.
nothing works today.
You're supposed to be gone.
Breathe.
Ayala.
Well, it's,
How do you deal with the government overseas when you have to? And I'm sure you must.
we just have to talk about it.
Yeah, just do what you have
I
to
mean,
do.
it's terrible because
Yeah.
the Ugandan government has made any kind of.
I'm still here. Well, it didn't end,
Absolutely
but
illegal.
it gives
Yeah.
you 10
You
minutes or
can't
something.
even
Yeah,
teach
you
about
have
it,
an
you
option
can't
to
do
end meeting.
anything.
Can't acknowledge
You
that it
end
exists.
I don't know where that,
So what do you do for kids who
Drives us
Stop
crazy.
video.
need help?
The only thing is that,
I,
Leave.
you know,
I can
I-
leave.
yeah, leave the meeting and then it'll,
One of our
okay, wait, here,
600 and some
I'm like
kids.
that now. Okay,
I can
I see it.
easily identify
I can end
three
the
or
meeting
four
for
that,
all.
you know,
Okay, here we
stand
go.
out.
Thank you,
Right.
bye.
These kids are gay. There's no.
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
But they are so.
If you were watching live online, I hope you heard some of that lively conversation.
So nobody does that?
Come and join us again next week.
Well, that's nice
So I
to
don't
know.
feel as bad about it
Right.
because these kids are not suffering the way they would.
But when they become adults, are they going to